Hello, my name is Bobby Thomas, and the policy and topic that I've chosen to research throughout most of this semester and for my final essay project focuses on prevention of drowning in youth and adolescents. Prevention of drowning in youth and adolescents is important because it's just that, it's preventable. And so, just to give you a quick reference, the number of children that have passed away in just over 2 months due to drowning since the policy brief we turned in is five. So that brings our total just in Greater Houston from 18 to 23 and up at in the 80s for Texas statewide, which is pretty alarming because it is a preventable thing. So some of the nonprofits that I've worked with and researched through this semester have been the YMCA of Greater Houston. They have a safety around water program that teaches just that, safety around water in communities like apartments and public pools. Essentially just to, if a kid falls in the pool, here's how to get to the edge, here's how to float. They also do swim lessons at different YMCA centers. And then they also have a program called Go for Green during the summer, where children who are enrolled in day camps, if they fail a swim test, can get free swim lessons. I also looked into the Houston Coalition for Drowning Elimination. They're essentially a collection of several nonprofits all focused on elimination of drowning in youth throughout the city, so they kind of bring everybody together. Lastly, Help for Parents, Hope for Kids is sponsored by the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. They do a number of different things like providing parenting tips and community resources, but they also do a large focus and kind of keep track of the number of drownings that we have in the state. So the goals of these nonprofits are essentially to eliminate drowning in youth through education, swim lessons, and then access control through fencing and different policy enforcement surrounding that. So one of the lobbying tactics that'll be best to start with, I think, is going to require a collaboration through a number of different House of Representative committees. So one of those committees is the Human Services Committee. They work with the Department of Health and Human Services, and we would work with them to try to create, fund, and distribute educational materials. In addition to that, create a curriculum and provide free seminars and programs surrounding prevention of drowning. We have a relationship with Representative Jean Wu through this class that I think we could capitalize on to start that process. In addition to that, we have the Public Education Committee. They oversee state programming in elementary schools, which is a really target age to start this safety around water and drowning prevention. Once we get a good curriculum that we could introduce into the schools, we would work with them to try to do that, whether it be through physical education classes or after school programs, those types of things. Next would be the Licensing and Administrative Procedures Committee. We would work with them and the Department of Licensing and Regulation to determine how we can enforce stricter codes for pools and fencing, creating four-sided fencing on not just public pools, but also in private residential pools as well. Through another class in this program, we've worked with Representative Sempronia Thompson. She sits on that committee, so I think that would be a really great starting point as well. And then finally, the Appropriations Committee. So all of this comes down to funding, who's going to pay for it. So they would be the ones that we approach and lobby to try to get advocacy on funding for these programs and these educational materials and instructors, all of that. Representative Jean Wu, who I mentioned earlier, who's been a partner to this class, also sits on that committee. So I think that would be a really great starting point. So Texas has one of the highest ratios of pools to people, and with that comes a lot of risk. So for instance, this year alone, we're already at 89 youth deaths because of drowning in Texas, and 77 last year. So the issue is that it's all preventable. So with that in mind, going to some of these lobbyists and representatives and kind of stating our case, I think we'd be really hard pressed to get a firm no. So that's what I have, and I look forward to finishing up this paper and sharing it with everyone.